ये पत्थर से बढ़कर कुछ नहीं है मंजिलें, ना उसके अलावा देते हैं सफर जारी रखो। क्या खूब कहा है इंदौरी साहब ने। We once again welcome our esteemed guests, special invitees, past presidents.
So, ladies and gentlemen, we are handing over to the team physically there at Indore. So, we have started with the second day conference. Over to the physical team over there. Thank you.
Session of National Convention on the topic good governance. Since good governance is a set of systems, principles, and processes
My audio.
vital that the rules thereof are in alignment with balancing the interests of all the stakeholders and maximizing value for all of them. Good governance is now considered vital for inspiring
అడ్మిట్ చేస్తాను సార్ మనీషర్ गायत्री कपूर ये गायत्री कपूर लॉगिन हो गए बट इनका वीडियो ये ठीक है सर दो ही लॉगिन किए हैं अभी
हाँ गायत्री हो गया
I welcome Ms. Smita Bharadwaj, IAS Managing Director, Entry Finance Corporation. Giving a very big round of applause for her. I welcome Ms. Aditi, IAS CEO Indore Smart City. We welcome you, ma'am, with a big round of applause. We welcome Mr. Mohan Saxena, Executive Director, NPIT. A big round of applause for him.
स्क्रीन पे पास बात है सर आप
We
देखो
also welcome our panelists who will be joining us virtually. We'll be having Minashri T. Narhari, IAS, a big round of applause for him to be joining us virtually. C.S. Suresh Arora, IPS retired, Chief Information Commissioner Punjab, will also joining us virtually. A big round of applause for him as well. We are also privileged to have with us C.S. Soren Goel, IAS, who happen to be our member, so we are very proud of her. She will be joining us at 10:30. We welcome her also. We welcome Mr. Manish Shankar Sharma, IPS, Additional Director General of Police, Madhya Pradesh. We welcome you. We have to join Mr. S. Sharma, who will join us at the meeting with Chief Minister. We welcome him also to join. So I once again welcome warm-heartedly all our panelists. Now I request our esteemed council members, Praveen Puri ji to kindly formally welcome the dignitaries. But before that, I would like to present Ambasaram and Nandas to all dignitaries who are present today. Round of applause. Proud moment for all of us, all bureaucrats at single platform. We are really proud to have all our distinguished speakers here. A huge round of applause for Nancy. We welcome you, sir, warm-heartedly.
డైరెక్ట్ కెమెరా ఇక్కడ చూపించు ఒక పని ఏం లేదు అక్కడ లైవ్ నడుస్తున్నా ఈ కెమెరాని డైరెక్ట్ ఇలా కనెక్ట్ చేసేసి జూమ్ కి మాత్రం అలా కనెక్ట్ చేసేసి జూమ్ లో
Now I request Praveen Sori sir to kindly formally welcome the dignitaries.
हाँ తీసేసేయండి वो क्रॉप कर दो చేస్తాను देखिए कंट्रोल
Good morning. Good morning to all. One present workshop on the second day of national convention of the ICICI, the 14th national convention. Good morning to all the members present here in person and all more than 4,000 members participating in this program on virtual basis.
वाटर बेटर ग्रेडिंग
Both of them we are saying that the important requires such opportunities into the pandemic, and that is the invention of this pandemic that we are able to hold a hybrid kind of workshop, which was not possible if this pandemic was not there.
పెట్టు
So friends,
స్క్రీన్
welcome you all on this second day and the first session of the 48th National Convention of ICSA. The city of the cleanness, city of tourism, and our city. Friends, before we start the technical session, I am thankful to all my speakers for being present here. I am glad to have that all the panelists are on the IS speakers. So all are the IS members are going to definitely able to get the benefit of their experience for the professional as far as our experience is concerned and improvement is concerned. Friends, once we see, let me tell you that some of the point. When we see the jungle, we see who is the biggest animal, that is elephant. If we see the tallest animal, that is giraffe.
अच्छे वोकल स्पॉटलाइट है
If we see the wisest animal, that is fox. And if we see the fastest animal, that is cheetah. So these all wonderful qualities are there, segregated among different animals. But where is the lion? The lion is the king of the jungle. Friends, lion doesn't need these qualities. Lion is getting different. Still is the king of the jungle, king of all animals. Because lion is very bold, he is courageous, he is confident, he never afraid, and he believes unstoppable. And that's the only thing for the year 2020. We have chosen Mr. Ashish Garg as lion of the Friends, there's a lot of learning from this, and you need not to be wisest, you need not to be tallest, you need not to be fastest, you need not to be brilliant, but yes, you should be courageous enough, you should be bold, you should be try and give opportunities and have a good example of leadership and believing in yourself. So this is the time when we are holding this conference and collecting together, just bring out the law from yourself out. That's the important thing, this message we want to communicate on the session. Now coming on the technical points, friends, the topic given for this workshop is rewriting the rules for good governance. The concept of governance is very old as human civilization is concerned. In the normal paradigm, the governance indicates the process of decision making and the process by which decisions are implemented or not implemented. But the governance is a wider spectrum ranging from local governance, national governance, internal governance, international governance, and corporate governance. Friends, there are four pillars of the governance we can understand. One is accountability, two fairness, three transparency, and four independence. If we talk about accountability, it's the management accountability to the board and the board's accountability towards the shareholders. If we talk about fairness, protect the shareholders' rights, including of minority shareholders, and to provide effective redressal of violation system. That is your आपका लक्ष्य सही होना चाहिए, काम तो नियमों में करनी है, but वो and we need to be not ready. And third one is transparency at that time and accurate disclosure needs to be made and board is independent, that is independence to be given to the independent directors. So friends, ultimately this all comes to the as a common package of corporate governance. If we see about ICSI motto Satyam Buddha Dharmam Jaya, the speaker should abide by the law. And as a king, you are supposed to take care of your own population, entire city, civilization, civil people. And the tropical finding the benefit you are the responsibility there, the vigilant technical, you are honestly supposed to be the technical. As in the good, you are supposed to be the purity to the goal when you are selling to the customers and business partners or as a life partners between your husband and wife. So that kind of honesty needs to be all relationships. Friends, I would like to quote here one quote from the Samhita. तुलसी साथी विपत्ति के विद्या विनय विवेक, तुलसी साथी विपत्ति के विद्या विनय विवेक, साहस सुसत्य राम रोके।
ఎవరిని మాట్లాడేటప్పుడు వెంటనే నేను అది పెట్టేస్తాను, అదే పెట్టేస్తాను మెయిన్ స్ట్రీమ్ రిలీజన్ లేదా ఇప్పుడు మనకు
विनम्रता that is your humbleness, and see the humbleness में एक छोटी सी उंगली पर पूरा छोटी सी बांसुरी को भी दोनों हाथ, so that is called the humbleness. आपकी बुद्धि, your brain power, आपके भीतर का साहस, your courage, आपके अच्छे काम, your good work, सच बोलने की आदत, your speaking truth, and your believing God, that is ईश्वर से विश्वास.
Okay.
So friends, good governance is the essential feature of any business to be profitable.
ठीक है, ठीक है.
From local business to large multinational companies, businesses have moved to multiple stakeholders. The rule of good governance underscores the importance of maintaining transparency, ensuring compliance with the applicable laws and regulations, and the most important to be a good corporate citizen. Businesses are evolving into the large manner and are competitive considering the technical disruptions, digitalization, and in the present time, which have also brought new challenges like COVID-19 pandemic we are seeing. The changing business environment and the pandemic have impacted both the global and local businesses, and to address the dynamic evolution, enterprise and shall revisit the business model.
cables कर लें.
The result of revisiting and rewriting the rules of governance measures to follow by the business enterprises nowadays. The government has also endeavored to keep pace with the changing time by revisiting the archaic age-old legislation and bringing the new laws appropriate for the current time. The man of developing India, Mr. Modi, has also said that 100 साल पुराने कानून से 100 साल के आगे के देश को नहीं चलाएगा. So that is one of the important thoughts that the government is also there. In this pandemic, the government has also attempted to provide relaxations and highlight the use of technology for complying with the statutory requirements like holding of board meetings, general meetings, etc., and allowing work from home. And now this concept has been changed to work from anywhere. As a professional entrusted with the responsibility of ensuring and maintaining highest level of governance standards, it is imperative for the use of contribute to the policies followed by the business enterprises in background of the present environment and economies. In our capacity as a professionals, yes, we also need to contribute by assessing the business enterprises by revisiting and redesigning their governance model without compromising on the upholding intent of the legislation in spirit. And this we need to do at right now because सही समय का इंतजार करते करते जिंदगी चली जाएगी. अच्छा होगा कि हम समय को ही सही करने की कोशिश की जाए. So this is one of the important thing which we need to see, friends. And with this, I open the session for the discussion with the eminent speakers on the panel, and we'll definitely have a good round of discussion with this. I would first of all like to invite Smita ji to come down and kindly share your views for a couple of minutes, and then we'll go with the question answer session. Thank you so much, friends.
We request Smita ma'am to kindly share her views, as sir has said.
Good morning. First of all, I would like to congratulate Mr. Ashish Garg for bringing Indore on the national map and being the heading this organization at a national level. So a big congratulations to you and for organizing this event in Indore. I would also like to thank Mr. Praveen Soni for introducing us and Pratik Tripathi for being instrumental in getting me here. Because post-COVID, I haven't attended any real functions. It's only been online. So since I could not refuse him and Ashish ji, so here I am. I would also like to invite my co-panelists, Aditi, Rohan, Narhari, who has joined, and a special hi to Manish, who happens to be my batchmate. And many years back, we as officer trainees trained together in Indore.
Thank you.
The topic given to us is good governance. and the issues. Basically, there are many points for good governance, and I would like to focus on just two aspects of the implementation. And that is the gender aspect and the dilemmas we face while we are implementing something which is actually there on paper and considered as principles of good governance. So when we talk of good governance, there are certain points which, everybody knows, but I'm just kind of reiterating for my own benefit. We talk about participation, we talk about being inclusive, we talk about equity. There is accountability, there's transparency, there is rules of law have to be followed. Effectiveness, how effective we are, how financially good we are, innovation, and in some cases it even extends up to social cohesion and human rights. All these things, I would like to mention one anecdote, and through that, I just want to cover all the points of good governance and the kind of issues we face and the kind of laws and implementation and the actual effect on the society. Whenever we talk about gender, I think gender is not just a goal to be achieved when we talk about good governance, but it has to be a precondition. It is something that has to be taken in advance, and it has to be there for us to reach that point of good governance. And this particular example I'm going to give you is about the problems of water and women. Somehow water and women kind of are always interlinked together. And I always feel that water has a very feminine aspect to it. And especially in rural areas where women are doing all the household chores, and if there is water scarcity, any woman at any point of time, if there is no water in the home for her family, for her household, gets extremely upset, and that becomes a major point. In fact, in her book about water wars, Vandana Shiva calls water the blue oil. Now, it is said that future wars could be held for water. This incident I'm talking about is about 2 decades old, but somehow in many rural areas, I see the situation same, where there is water scarcity and problem. Now, in small places, subdivisions, when I was posted, it was just after my training when I went and joined, and about a month later, when I was coming back home, I saw in front of my gate of the residence a barricade of all the earthen pots, matke. एक के ऊपर एक लगा के उसकी दीवार बना दी थी so that I couldn't enter the house. And there was a group of women, extremely upset, extremely vociferous, and they demanded कि हमें नल में पानी नहीं आ रहा है, हमें पानी नहीं मिल रहा है, हम क्या करेंगे? So I had no idea that there was any such problem, so I said I will look into it. Because I had recently joined, they didn't know. And as it happens in rural areas, when they're extremely upset about any incompetent person, वो जाके वहाँ उनको चूड़ियाँ भेंट करते हैं. So it's considered that, you are not able to do your work, and they said, आपको तो हम चूड़ियाँ भी नहीं दे सकते हैं, आप तो औरत हैं. So they were like, I said, okay, give me some time, let me find out what the issue is. A typical small town where there is a main street, उसके नीचे business establishments, दुकानें होती हैं, ऊपर घर होते हैं, and the rich people who have the resources are generally living on that. The higher caste is living on that, and they're the fringes. So although the pipelines were there, the water would never reach the other end. At that point of time, there was no municipal body elected, so I was the administrator for the municipal organization, and I had various other charges. So I felt that this was something wrong, and when I took a meeting, I realized that people have dug underground tunnels from their house and put motors to the main water line, and they would suck out the water, so it would never reach the other end, which was the fringes of the town. So the first thing I said, I told the people that you have to go and confiscate and do surprise checks of homes, क्योंकि हर ने घर में बड़ी-बड़ी टंकियां बना के पानी स्टोर करके रखा था. There was a huge water shortage, so water hoarding was at its peak. After 10 days, one gentleman walked into my office extremely agitated and upset with me, saying that आपने मेरी मोटर नहीं रिलीज करा दी, बाकी करा दी, आपने कट भेज दिया था ना. He said that to me on my face in the office, and I was so disturbed. I said, what do you mean? He said, वो तो आपके लोग आते हैं, बंद कर देते हैं, मोटर लेके जाते हैं. जो 10 मोटरें बंद करके रखी है, उनको अगले दिन छुड़वा देते हैं, दूसरी और पकड़ लेते हैं. And anybody who pays up, their motor is released. I was aghast because, here I was being charged of corruption and I was trying to help a situation. But I knew that when I have these people who are working at that level, what do I do? मैं एक को punish करूंगी, दूसरा करेगा दूसरे. And these are the people I have to work with. And I wanted to talk to them. I called a meeting. But looking at their reactions, I felt that this was not going to be sorted out that easily. And I felt extremely disturbed at my name having this getting spoiled. So I looked at all the history of the problems, and then just fresh out of the academy, having read all the laws, I just decided to pass one order, which was under section 144 CRPC, saying that for public good, I'm issuing this order that every time there is water supply, electricity will be discontinued. And I felt very happy about it, that this is an example of good governance, where I'm not dependent on anybody, and yet what I want to do is happening. Bas, fair enough, पानी पहुंच गया बिल्कुल आखिरी छोर तक, and these same women called me. और I saw the taps being garlanded, नारियल फोड़े जा रहे हैं, उसमें से पानी निकला 5 साल के बाद में. I also got some garlands, and a very happy situation that I solved the problem. Just after some time, I realized that it's not that easy, because the water department now started supplying water at 7:30 to 8:30 in the night. जब बाजार खुला रहता है, दुकानें होती हैं, जब लाइट की जरूरत होती है, all the business transactions are happening, women are cooking, and there was no electricity. These taps are not in their rooms or in their bathrooms. In these towns, you have taps which are on the main street, and you have to fill up water and then take it inside. So imagine the chaos when there is no electricity, everybody rushes to fill up the water because that's what they will get for 24 hours. And it was a complete chaos. When this happened, I realized that yes, one of the points in my good governance is the rule of law. There was something that I had overlooked, because everybody had told me कि वो दोपहर में पानी आता है इतने सालों से, so I did not specify the time in my order. So now I had to call the people from the PHE and the MPEB. First I called the MPEB, he was an old man, divisional engineer, and he said, "Madam, हम तो नहीं करेंगे और हमको नहीं पता ये क्या है." I said, "देखिए, अगर आप नहीं करेंगे तो इसमें ये प्रावधान है कि आप जेल में जाएंगे." So he said, "आप मेरी बेटी जैसे हैं, अगर आपको लगता है कि आप हमको जेल में डाल सकती हैं तो जरूर कर दीजिए." And by the way, I'm the union leader of so-called whatever जो electricity के लोग हैं, state का मैं union leader हूँ. तो अब तो हम नहीं कर सकते आदेश का पालन, और आप देख लीजिए क्या करना है. Now, obviously, here I am right in a way if I arrest him, but it would look not the right thing to do. So when we talk of good governance, it is not that government delivers something to the people. It's not like we are the donor and the people are recipient. It's always a relationship which is reciprocal, and we all work towards it. We have to become co-creators of good governance. So I called the same women who were pretty vocal about it, and I told them कि आप उनसे जाके मिलिए, उनसे बात कीजिए, वो मेरी बात नहीं मान रहे हैं, आप उनको समझा सकती हैं. They only knew how to get agitated, and again they blockaded him. So this gentleman just disappeared out of the scene without taking leave for nearly 4 days. The same water problem continued. रात को problem हो रही थी. We had to call the police because confusion था रात को. ये लोग मानने को तैयार नहीं, and he was absconding. So all I did was I created a record that so and so person is missing. There is a problem. I'm not able to get in touch with him, knowing fully well that he was hiding in his house. Finally, on the 4th day, the women went and they started talking. And it so happened they were all a group of women. One junior engineer came very close to a lady. She kind of pushed him and he fell down. That was the reason to start a statewide strike by the union, by these people, saying that ये हमारे साथ ठीक व्यवहार नहीं हो रहा है और SDM हमको support नहीं कर रही है. Now here I was, I was trying to be transparent. I was trying to get equity. I was trying to reach to the people. Finally, when this happened, this gentleman came out because it became an issue. And I had to call him and the PHE people. And I said that, please do this. And you have to now. They said, you're so confused. You keep changing your orders. I said, yes, I am new. But I didn't realize people are so smart in finding loopholes. So now I have to stick 10 steps ahead and think before I issue an order. And I said, ये दिन के समय में मैं आपको flexible time दे रही हूँ 4 घंटे. Because if I say 1 hour of water, आप कल बोलेंगे कोई टेक्निकल प्रॉब्लम आ गई थी तो हम पानी नहीं दे पाए, अब हमको दूसरे दिन देना पड़ेगा क्योंकि हमको 1 घंटे में ही हमको एक विंडो दिया गया है. So again we got back on track and life was going on well and I thought this is what I'm doing. We all talk about basic necessities में रोटी कपड़ा मकान बोलते हैं लेकिन पानी का तो जिक्र ही नहीं होता है जबकि पानी के बिना हम एक दिन भी नहीं रह सकते. And I felt what I was doing was the right thing. So this is an example of good governance. And if you feel that, I covered all the points, believe me, this is where the problem started. Because when you try to change a social system, when you deal with the haves and the have-nots, and you suddenly change the equilibrium, you suddenly change the status, there is bound to be a reaction. So one night when I was sleeping, it was around 2:30, I just woke up because I heard some sounds. It's an old bungalow and about 50 meters ahead, the wall was around 4 feet. I saw 2 trucks parked and about 70, 80 people jumping onto the wall of the house. I was alone. There was one chowkidar and I had a driver and his family staying in the servants' quarter. Believe me, that is one of the moments where I was scared in my life because I didn't know that why a mob was coming into my house in the middle of the night. The first thing I did was I quickly changed. And in small towns, you have government colonies, everybody staying close by. Tehsildar hai, veterinary officer hai, BDO hai. I called up everyone and I said, there's a problem, so please come. कुछ लाठी वाठी लेके आइए और आपके घर में जितने कोई बड़े लोग हैं, लड़के हैं, उनको आप लेके आइए. I called my driver and I just gave him 2 instructions. I said, you will go to the thana and get the people. Because they will say, गाड़ी नहीं है, vehicle नहीं, हम आ रहे हैं. I said, just go and get them. And ये जो बाहर जो ट्रक खड़े हैं, इसके आपको ignition से चाबी निकालनी है और आप कुछ भी करो, इनके टायर में से हवा निकाल दो. ट्रक्स यहाँ से हिलेंगे नहीं. I have to find out who the owners of the trucks are. When you have to face a mob, our body language is extremely important. The minute you are scared, the mob can mentally overpower you. But if you're confident and you deal with it, that's one thing. And the leaders of the mob, they have to be dealt with separately because if they are with the mob, it's very difficult to negotiate. The leaders turned out to be 3 very influential businessmen, jinka pani ruk gaya tha. They came in the forefront. And I said, no, we will sort it out. We will talk to you. And my tehsildar was an elderly man and he with 2 other officers. We had this bungalow office concept. मैंने उनको कहा कि मैं आपको लॉक कर रही हूँ. 3 लोग हैं, 3 लोग अंदर जाएंगे. हाथापाई होगी, जो भी होगी, आप डील करो. 1-to-1. You have to deal with it. And I'm locking you from outside and I'll deal बाहर का. आप इनको बाहर नहीं आने देंगे. Once I stepped out, I said, हटो यहाँ से, मेरी फूल की क्यारी है. Why are you standing here? Go out, stand here. So, they all kind of fell in line. And to this group of people, I said, any mob who thinks who can walk in, actually encroach, and try to intimidate a lady officer who's staying alone when they can very well come and talk in the daytime, they have to be taught a lesson. I said, मैं आपका सारा काम एक तरफ, लेकिन आज आपको इसमें से 8-10 लोगों को तो हवालात में बंद करना है और 2-4 के पैर तोड़ने हैं आपको, लेकिन you will not hit on the head. So just catch them. I had a veranda which had a grill. So I stayed inside, which was like a buffer zone. The leaders were inside, these people were outside, and there was a complete chaos. People tried to run, they could not move the trucks. Obviously, we had a capacity of holding on to 20 people. उनको पकड़ के हम हवालात में उनको बंद कर दिया. जब ये बाहर के सब लोग दूर चले गए, then of course, we had many cases registered against these people and they walked out. And I was quite upset with this whole thing because here I was trying to do something that we had believed in, that we have to reach the most marginalized people in the society. And in that marginalized group, the women as a gender are someone whose opinion is never taken care of. And here I was trying to help them. And I had actually made the most powerful section of the society as my enemies who could not see eye to eye. So the entire report was sent, and then, I had some security all beefed up and everything. And just after 1 week, one more incident happened, which again shook us, which brings me to the point of dilemmas. You believe in something in theory, but when you try to do it in reality, what happens? Around 7:30, 8 o'clock, I get a call from the PHE executive engineer. This gentleman had a reputation of being drunk. So post office hours, nobody could speak to him. He would only be sober during office times. I could hear him, कि मैं गोली चला दूंगा, and he was totally drunk. I said, क्यों क्या हुआ? नहीं, वो लोग बाहर आए हैं और हमारा प्लान बंद करवा रहे हैं और वो जला डालेंगे. So I thought he was just talking nonsense. I said, doesn't matter, we'll just reach in 10 minutes. आप गोली मत चलाइए. Then the advance party went, and by the time I reached, we didn't have enough force, we didn't have timely intervention, we could not get the water brigade, fire brigade. But after the previous incident, I had realized that I must have a video camera ready in case anything goes wrong. So we had 2 people stand by. Again, my driver rushed to their homes, caught hold of them, got them, and we just videographed the whole thing. And I could not do anything when the government property was being burned down. This gentleman was drunk, we were trying to sort him out. And the same 3 people were there. It's a scene I can never forget. It's always etched in my mind. I was so helpless, I couldn't help it. The property was burning. But there was more rage in their eyes. In their eyes, I could see the fire being reflected with that rage that, how dare you change the system? आप समझती क्या है? जो इतने सालों से चल रहा है, आप नए-नए आदेश आके बनाती हैं, ये सब करती हैं. Eventually, much later after I left, criminal cases were registered. All of them went to jail for arson and intimidation and all that. But here I'm saying that when you try to change something, and in theory you're perfectly fine following all the principles of good governance, there's one more thing that you have to believe in good governance, is that, though it's not the government machinery alone through which you can give good governance, is the people's participation, which is equally important. And in any government machinery, it's the will of the person who's administering the government machinery that is the most important. From where you come from, what you want to do, and your faith in yourself, that is the most important thing. And I would like to conclude just with one quote from Lao Tzu, what he talks about leadership. He says, a leader is best when he is barely known. And in fact, when the work is done, the leader does not talk much about his work. His aim is fulfilled, but the people will say, we did it ourselves. So it has to be a kind of a joint movement where everybody, all the stakeholders are involved together, and only then we can reach all these parameters of good governance. So thank you so much for listening to me through this example. And as administrators, more than the law, we are faced with dilemmas, and we have those challenges to deal with. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Smita ji, for the wonderful and detailed deliberations and views of the practical exposure which you have got during your session, exposures, and which is going to be beneficial for the corporate secretaries. Friends, we have just crossed the time limits, I feel. So I would, without taking any more time, I would request our next speaker to the panel, Ms. Aditi Garg, IAS officer, CEO, Indore Smart City, to kindly come forward and give you a brief about your sessions. Thank you so much.
Thank you. At the outset, I'd like to thank the organizers, Mr. Ashish Garg, Mr. Praveen Soni, and Mr. Pratik Tripathi for inviting me here. It's a tall order to speak after Smita ma'am, because her experiences encapsulate basically the experiences of every IAS officer who has worked in the young ages, in the very grassroots of this country. So it's a tall order, ma'am. And I think sharing experiences, as far as that goes, I just want to add a small experience of my own. Ma'am said very rightly, governance is a series of established relationships between the governed as well as the government. I remember, ma'am, when I was an SDM myself in one of the rural subdivisions of Indore, there was a water scarcity issue that led us to provide piped water into one of the most backward communities of our subdivision. True to script, the people there revolted against it because they thought that there was an entitlement hierarchy where the upper castes were entitled to piped water first before the other castes. And this led into a massive law and order problem, due to which Section 144 had to be imposed and people had to be curbed from coming out and displaying their sentiments on the streets. I remember one fine day under Section 144, I was told that there is some havan which is happening on the streets of my subdivision. And SDM madam ko to usme aana hi padega. And I was quite surprised how somebody could so openly violate the law, especially when, as ma'am mentioned, you know, when you're wet behind the ears, you feel a violation of the law is a violation of the constitution. It is a very violation of the system that governs the country. So you are out to protect every law, every minor transgression has to be punished. And true to script as well, I decided to go to the Havan and stop it. When I went there, I was told, I was very welcomed, you know, I was welcomed, and I was informed that it was a pleasure to have me there. So I was quite surprised. And the organizers of the Havan came forward and they said, Madam, ये सद्बुद्धि हवन रखा गया है. ये SDM को सद्बुद्धि देने के लिए रखा गया है कि उन्हें कैसे govern करना है. So I was pleasantly surprised that governance challenges come with these series of, breaks, of humorous interventions by the people. And I hope that their Sadbuddhi Havan was successful, and I am able to govern since that day with some Sadbuddhi that they had given me. My own experience of governance has been that it's not a utopian concept. It is not a goal that we work towards, but it is a series of decisions that we take in order to have an established relationship with the people. A recent example of some of the work that we have been doing as part of Smart City, I'd like to bring to light. It showcases some of the experiences that we've had in trying to establish our own understanding of what good governance actually means for the people. There is an ongoing work where we are trying to resettle a small area and introduce basic amenities along with a connecting road into one area. This has required us to shift approximately 300 families from slum and squatter kind of a living into a decent accommodation that is under the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana. Our initial understanding was that if people are uprooted from their living conditions, there is resistance. And if they are asked by the diktat of the government to resettle into a different area, there is further resistance because it is not as per the wishes of the people. So we very hesitatingly approached this project, where we realized that we had to shift 300 members approximately of one community into different housing units. But when we reached there, much to our own surprise, we found acceptance, greater willingness, and a sense of apprehension as to why the government had been delayed in providing this basic amenity. When we spoke to the people who were being resettled and who were going to lose their piece of land at the existing area, we were told that this was a land over which they actually did not have any right. And what we were offering to them was decent living accommodation, assured basic amenities, and a roof over their head. It is when government takes difficult decisions which might seem to oppose a set of people that we realize the importance of development. I have realized in my own journey that the most difficult decisions have turned out to actually have been the most welcome decisions, because people have had the foresight and the willingness to look at long-term benefits. Often in government, we do not credit citizens, people, with the benefit of having a long-term vision. We feel a loss today is going to surmount the benefit that the future will get for them. But that is perhaps not the case. It is only when we take citizen feedback, when we understand the sentiments of the people, and when we try to accommodate their demands, that we realize that people are willing and more participative in this journey of development that we embark upon. I often quote this when I share my experiences, that मंजिल मिलेगी भटक कर ही सही, गुमराह तो वो हैं जो घर से निकले ही नहीं. For me, governance is about making those series of difficult decisions, of having the courage and the ability to make experiments, knowing fully well that there is a 50-50% chance that you might fail. It is a series of data and evidence-based decisions that we try to build our careers over. I'm happy to note that in Indore, as CEO of the Smart City, we have tried to incorporate data-based decision-making as and where we can. Today, we have the Integrated Command and Control Center, which provides us with a series of non-specific citizen data. We are trying to establish that into our regular decision-making in order that tomorrow when we go to a group of people and talk to them about disrupting their lives in order to achieve the utopian goal of development for them, we are not taken aback and surprised when they actually join us for the journey. So for me, governance is a series of regular data-based decisions that we take in order to establish a long-term relationship with the citizens of this country. One of the other challenges that we have had with governance of late has been our shaking of our comfort zone. We always assumed that we will be able to foretell the future, that we will be able to control our present until Corona hit. For us, the pandemic has been the biggest shakeup to our decision-making and governance process. We have had to realign our resources, we have had to readjust our priorities, and we have had to play the difficult hand that is required in order to deal with the present so that our future is not compromised. For me, dealing with the pandemic has been a huge learning. It has taught us that we can never be too prepared for our future, but yes, we can infuse our present with the strength to stand in the winds of the future if they do disturb us as and when times come. Giving you an example again of the Smart City, we have been able to realign our resources. Our own existing people have been reassigned, and today they are dealing and tracking the pandemic as and where we can. We have been able to refocus our energies. We were thinking long-term given ceteris paribus, but things have changed and now we have to realign our own priorities. So for me, governance is about being prepared for the challenges that can come towards us. The last thing that I do want to add is that for the, I consider myself to be a new generation administrator and an implementer. For us, one of the biggest challenges has been to assume that governments have certain limitations. And we as administrators and implementers need to ensure that our own systems are strengthened first before we go out and deal with the goals and the end games that we are trying to achieve. So one of our experiences has been to strengthen our own systems. Revenue augmentation has been one of the ways in which we have had to deal with the weakening of our own systems. Giving you an example again of the smart city, for us, governance has been keeping the house in order as well. For us, raising revenue has been a new goal towards achieving the dream of good governance. And for that, we have tried to tap new sources, new streams of revenue that as yet had not been thought about. One of our recent transgressions, I may say, has been dabbling with environment sustainability and trying to understand how carbon credits can help us in generating revenues and incomes so that we may be able to invest our resources in environment friendly projects. You know, I'm a student of economics, and I often refer to how economics tells us that investment into environmentally sustainable projects is not feasible. Economics tells us that investment in goods and services which provide private costs at the cost of huge social benefit are often neglected, because I as an investor will never want to put my money which costs me more but gives an X person the benefit. So we have tried to challenge this notion of economics. We have said that, look, let us try to see if we can get some earning from our investments into the carbon sustainable projects that we have undertaken. And I'm happy to report that Indore Smart City has been able to make that first dent. We have been able to take that first step towards ensuring that our environmentally friendly projects generate a certain amount of revenue. And by trading these carbon credits at an international platform, we have been able to generate approximately 50 to 60 lakh rupees, which will be an income for the next 30 years. So we will be generating Indore Smart City. Thank you. Indore Smart City will be generating a minimum income of 50 to 60 lakhs per year for the next 30 years. So for me, governance is also about pushing the envelope. It is about challenging our own notions of what our revenue streams should be, what our expenditures should be. In the end, I would just like to say that we are on a journey in India in trying to understand what good governance actually means. We have not reached there yet, but rest assured that we are doing our bit in ensuring that we come up with our very own model of good governance and ensure that the society gets the benefit of that from our very many experiments. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Aditi. Wonderful address. Friends, we do have speakers participating through virtual mode also. For this, first I would like to invite Shri P. Narhariji, IS officer. If he's online, I would request him to kindly address to the gathering.
Can we please connect Mr. Narhari, IAS? Can somebody connect him? Sir, I think he has not joined us yet, so
Okay.
we can have some.
So
other
we'll go
speakers.
ahead with the Madam CS Sonal Goel, IS officer. if she is connected. Sonali, I would request you to kindly address to the gathering here. Yes, Sonali, now you can speak, I feel.
Just give me a minute. Just give me a minute. So am I audible and visible?
Yes, madam, you are very much audible.
Okay. Right. So good morning, Namaskar. All the dignitaries present in the 48th National Convention of the Institute of Company Secretaries of India. I extend my warm wishes and congratulations to the entire fraternity of company secretaries. I'm very proud to be here because I also belong to all of you. I mean, I belong to the same fraternity of being a company secretary. Of course, it is long time back that is in 2004, I qualified my CS. And whenever I am attending any national convention, I am reminded of my own memories. So just to share with the audience that it was in 2004 when I attended the national convention which was held at Mumbai, and at that time as a student actually I attended the convention, and I was supposed to receive the award which I won in the national that is the All India Essay Writing Competition. So I had won the All India Essay Writing Competition as a final stream student, and I attended the national convention at ISA, which was held at Mumbai. Yeah. So coming back to the convention today, so it is indeed a pleasure for me to to have had the experience of being a company secretary for a few years, and then I entered into civil services. My batch is 2008. And say last around 12 years of my service, so a major part has been, I would share, has been in Tripura. I belong to 2008 batch. My cadre is Tripura, and 2016 I had come on inter-cadre deputation to Government of Haryana. So in Haryana, I spent around 4 years during my deputation. And when I was, just to share like how I entered into civil services and what role I feel company secretaries as a profession has been playing into my life. So I was doing my CS final year, and I was also doing my graduation from Shri Ram College of Commerce, Delhi University. It was at that time that I came across civil services, and I kind of thought on ki I should at least try once to appear for civil services, which I thought would be giving me an opportunity to serve the nation and society in a better way. That was a time when I kind of decided, and it was in 2004, I cleared my CS. I then started my job as CS in one of the ancillary undertakings of Hero Honda. I also started my law from Delhi University. I took admission in Faculty of Law. And also I started preparation for civil services. So 2004 to 2007, I would say these 3 years were kind of a mix in my life. Of course, the focus was on preparation for civil services. I was also gaining my experience as a CS professional, and I was also doing my law. And in 2008, in my second attempt, I cleared civil services. I joined my cadre Tripura in 2009, way back in, I think, June 2009, I joined. And after a year of training, district training or so, I joined my subdivision, that is Ambasa in Dhalai district, Tripura. And 2009 to 2016, I was generally posted in the field. So from my subdivision, and then I moved to become an ADM, the ADM and collector. Then I was posted as CEO in the Agartala Municipal Council. Then I joined there after a short period of maternity leave. I joined there as DM and collector in district Gomti, where I was working for like more than 2 years. And then I came to Haryana. In Haryana, my profiles have been in Faridabad. I have been Deputy Commissioner Jhajjar, and I have also been posted recently in Gurugram. So, the convention which talks about the role of company secretaries and how company secretaries, have been rewriting the rules of good governance. I am very much glad and I'm happy to see the way the profession has, revived itself, the way the profession has re-metaphorized itself, it has regained its relevance. Because I remember way back when I was doing my CS, then there was some kind of a shadow, I would say, of chartered accountancy profession. So CA profession was, of course, considered as a big brother. And at that time, CS was kind of, I would not say in a nascent stage, but yes, it was trying to establish its worth. It was trying to establish its relevance for the industry and the corporate world. And long years, it is like, say, more than 15-20 years. So, that now we are at a stage that, yes, everybody in India and even world across would know about this profession. They would appreciate the role the company secretaries, professionals, whether they are working in the corporate sector or whether they are working in their private capacities as practitioners. So that kind of a relevance and that kind of importance the profession has gained. It is very heartening to see. We also see the role of company secretaries, especially when we talk about the Companies Act, and there was a big overhaul, we all remember, when MCA 21 was kind of ushered in. And after that, the way we have been looking into good governance. So the company secretaries as professionals have been a major pillar support for ensuring good governance, especially in bigger companies, especially in the companies which are mandated to have company secretaries as per their paid up capital criteria or the net worth criteria, which is defined by the Companies Act. So all those companies, they are mandated, but of course now we have actually moved forward, and even we are seeing the companies which are not as such mandated as per the law, but they are also hiring or availing the services of company secretaries. So this is a kind of the relevance which we have been able to establish. I'm very happy to see that. Now, as I share, because the special session which has been scheduled today talks about the role of administrators, or how the administrators have been able to contribute towards governance, or how I foresee my journey, or I mean the instances of me into governance, the examples of me into governance. So just to mention that, initially 2009 to 2016, I was in Tripura. Tripura is a small state in the northeastern part of our country. And whenever we talk about governance, I feel that we as administrators have very important role in the way we connect with the public. We have the opportunity of, directly working with the public at large. So whether we are in a subdivision or we are in a district, or for that matter, we are in a city, or even when we move to any department during the later part of our career. So this kind of opportunity which we have, I think it is very much important, and which is quite unparalleled, I would say, in context of our country. I recall here a very small example, even though it may seem to be a very a minor issue for a citizen who is staying in a metro city, or who is staying in a city which is well connected. But I'm talking about, say, way back in 2010, when I was SDM in subdivision Ambasa in district Dhalai, Tripura. So when I joined the district, actually Tripura has a mix of population. So we have panchayat, we have some panchayats in the Gram Panchayat areas, and we have some village committees. So village committees are under the Autonomous District Council, which has primarily tribal population. So there was an attempt by the government, by the administration, to rehabilitate or reshift the primitive tribal groups to the mainland areas, but still there were some groups which were not very much willing to come forth to the mainland because of various issues. I mean, their rights and all, tribal rights, and they had a kind of an belongingness to their areas, so they were still there. So when I started moving to those areas, we would see that, so I'm talking about way back more than 10 years back. So those areas there were some places which were not connected by road. So one had to travel on foot or maybe, cross some streams or nalas to reach to those areas. But yes, of course, it was inhabited. So there, these tribal hamlets were inhabited by the people, and they were staying there, and they were, we were actually having the mandate of giving all kind of facilities to them, whether it was health or school education, or for that matter, Anganwadi center. But then due to the issue of remoteness, there were some lacunas and we were not able to reach out. So when I started moving out with my team, just give me a moment. I think there is some issue with my connection. Just give me a moment.
Technical issues is there. I believe we have got temporarily disconnected with Sonali. So we'll connect her back again once connectivity is established. Meanwhile, now I request the next speaker present on dais, Sri Rohan Saxena ji, Executive Director, MPIDC, to kindly come and address to the gathering.
Good morning, Honorable Smita ma'am, Aditi ma'am, the members of the Fraternity of Company Secretaries. Thank you for giving me an opportunity to speak on this issue and on this occasion. The topic mentioned here is rewriting the rules of good governance. So I would like to start by saying that there are no specified rules of good governance. I mean, there must be something written in the books about good governance. There must be some basic principles which are guiding the good governance, but you can't say that there are certain rules which guide us all the time in all the circumstances. So good governance is always very dynamic concept. For every circumstance, there is a solution which is different from the solution which is being offered at the instances which happened before that. So the good governance depends on the circumstances, on the places, on the specific environment that place has. Smita ma'am in detail mentioned about an incident related to water. So had it been a scenario which is on present, like she must be mentioning some around 15 to 20 years back. So today, the things must have been very different, what she mentioned. So the solution would have been also been different. I would like to take you to a small journey of city of Indore. I was posted here as Additional Municipal Commissioner, and I headed the Swachh Bharat mission initiative for 4 years from 2015 to 2019. So that's a transformation of a city which was one of the city which was dirtiest city in the country, not very good infrastructure, the condition was not good. And from being on that stage to transforming into the cleanest city of India for successive 4 years. So there were many steps which were undertaken during that phase to make Indore the cleanest city of India. So a small journey, I'll wind it up briefly. So in 2015, the scenario was the municipal corporation had lack of resources. The absenteeism was very high. The employees were not working in a regular manner. There was a trust deficit between municipal corporation and the citizens of the city. The condition of solid waste management was pretty bad. Lots of around 2,000 and more garbage points across the city. People were throwing the garbage on the road, and there was no door-to-door collection process. So in 2016, when we started the process of making Indore the cleanest city or improving the solid waste management, so the first thing was we need to develop the trust between municipal corporation and the citizens of the country. What we did was we went for the capacity building. So that was the first thing. When you have to deliver the good governance, the government should have the capacity to deliver. We went for the procurement of garbage tippers. We went for procurement of transfer stations, so that the municipal corporation has that capacity to commit the citizens that we will be delivering certain services at your doorsteps. From 2016 to end of 2016, during the phase of 5 to 6 months, we just enhanced our capacity. We did not ask anything from the citizens of the city. We said that we will be delivering some specific services to you, irrespective of what the citizens cooperate us or not. So the first phase was just capacity building. By 2016 end, we were in that stage that we could commit the citizens that now we are delivering the services at your doorsteps. Now kindly cooperate with us. So that was stage 2. So for any good governance, the first step is the capacity of the administration to deliver. When we were in that stage that we could deliver the services, then we started asking for some support from the citizens. 85 wards are there in Indore city. We procured around 500 door-to-door garbage tippers. And then we started the process of door-to-door collection, that a vehicle would come to your household every day and collect the garbage. The process started from 2017 January. We started the process. There were certain challenges. The people were not willing to give the garbage to us. They were accustomed to throwing garbage on certain specified points. At some of the instances, we have to deal them with strict penalties also after we started the process. So there was a mix of asking cooperation and then imposing penalties. Slowly, the system started getting in process. The people started responding. They started throwing the garbage, giving the garbage to the vehicles, and stopped throwing the garbage on the road. Next challenge was the employees of the municipal corporation. When you expect that we are delivering the services, we expect our employees to be committed to the work that which was given. As I said, there were around 7,000 employees who are working for solid waste management with the municipal corporation. The attendance percentage in 2016 was around 30%. The base average working hours were around 2 to 3 hours. With this type of infrastructure, we could not deliver the services which we were committed to. So we started with multi-pronged strategy. We started training the employees, the solid waste management employees. We started their training, capacity building, and then giving them a sense of pride that what you are doing is good. You are doing it for the good of the city. As I said, the capacity of municipal corporation to inculcate these kinds of changes was very limited. So what we did was, we deployed around 6 NGOs with us, and around 500 young boys and girls, the volunteers of NGOs, started working with us from 2016. And they started to train the employees, and they started to interact with the citizens of the city. They started convincing them that this kachra, the garbage should be handed over to the municipal corporation. And they started the training of the employees that what you are doing is a great service to the city and you must do it regularly. We fixed the accountability. Earlier, they had a culture of working within the groups and disappearing after a few hours. What we did was, we divided the entire city into a cell of 800 meters. So 6,000 cells of 800 meters each. And we assigned each cell to every sanitary worker, so that we could fix the accountability of that particular space. Earlier, there was resistance because we expected some work out of them. One day, there was a big lockdown in the municipal corporation. So everybody stopped working and they threw all the garbage on the roads of the city. So that was the day where we had to take a call whether we accept what they are demanding and stop the process, or we deal with them strictly. So on that day, we decided that we would deal with it very strictly. On a single day, we lodged around 560 FIRs against all the persons who were committing these kind of nuisance in the city. So 560 FIRs in a single day, and we made sure that the culprits were arrested within 3 days. So that gave a strong message on the third or fourth day that we are not going to go back on our initiatives. Slowly, the process started to initiate that the employees also started cooperating with the corporation, and then a team movement was started. So during the process, you face lots of challenges on how to deal with different kind of segments which you are working with. The most important part was Indore is a city of around 3 million people. And when we want some initiative to succeed, it's only possible when the citizens cooperate with the government or with the municipal corporation in any initiative which it has taken. That was the most important thing, to persuade 30 million people, 3 million people, 30 lakh citizens of the city to come together with the municipal corporation for this drive. As I said, we empaneled around 600 young boys and girls, and they were mandated to go each and every household on a specified time and request the citizens to kindly cooperate and teach them what exactly solid waste management is. First, we requested them to ensure door-to-door collection, and then we requested them to segregate the garbage at source. That you have to keep 2 dustbins, you have to keep the wet waste separately, dry waste separately, and give separately to the vehicle. And that was a very difficult job. We faced lots of resistance that why should we segregate, what happens after we segregate. So there were some instances like when people were not ready to segregate, the young boys and girls, they went to their households, they took their garbage, put it on the road, and they started to segregate themselves in front of them. So we had to resort to these kind of tactics as well. Within a span of 6 months, we achieved 100% door-to-door collection, 100% segregation. And Indore was the first city in the country to achieve this. And it was notified by the central government as well that this is the first city and first kind of experience. We were first city to achieve 100% door-to-door collection. We were the first city to achieve 100% segregation. And we were the first city to be declared as binless city or dustbin free city in the country. So that changed the entire scenario for the solid waste management in the country. I mean, all the guidelines which are now drawn by the central government, they are being taken by the municipal corporation, what initiative we have taken. And when we started the initiatives, we did not have any guidelines, any rules, any principles, any precedent that we could be followed. So everything was designed, discussed, deliberated over in the municipal corporation office, and it was executed. Few initiatives which were taken by municipal corporation and which had long-term implications. I would just wind it up in short before I finish. We started the road sweeping, mechanized road sweeping in the city. So that faced lots of resistance because there were apprehensions that when you start plugging in machines for road sweeping, you would be kicking out the persons who are sweeping the roads for years. So that faced lots of resistance, lots of complaints, and we have to face many public interest litigations as well in the court that they are mechanizing the process, and slowly they would throw out the persons who were sweeping the roads for years. It took around 3 months to persuade them that we are not going to replace any of the road sweeper from the municipal corporation. This would be an added measure, and this would be employed only on the major roads and highways. In December 2016, we started this process of road sweeping. 12 road sweepers were put into work. and we swept around 500 kilometers of road every night for 1 year. That was a pilot project for us. For 1 year, 500 kilometers every night, mechanized road sweeping, 12 machines working from 10 p.m. in the night to 6 a.m. in the morning. Now, what this led to? The pollution level, the RSPM level, which was 155 in December 2016, it came down to 75 in December 2017. So almost half. So the air became cleaner. The dust which was there in the ecosystem of the city, it was sucked and it was displaced from the ecosystem. So that led to city becoming clean. What this led to, the second aspect, the major, the health department conducted a study. They notified 12 different diseases which were caused due to different 12 different diseases which are caused due to dirtiness or due to people getting ill because of unhygienic conditions. So there was a 77% drop in these kind of diseases from year 16 to 17, just because we cleaned the entire city. So 77% of the drop, and 24 crores worth medicines was rupees of there was a drop in rupees 24 crores of sale of the medicines relating to these kind of diseases. So drop in the sale of medicines, drop in the number of persons getting ill because of the diseases caused due to unhygienic conditions. And added to that is when people are healthy, they can contribute more to the society. So many man hours must have been added to the economy, which otherwise would have been got wasted. Just two more examples. One was biomethanation, which we undertook in 2017. Those who are from Indore must be knowing about Chwethram Mandi. So it's one of the largest mandis in central India. 20 tons of organic waste was generated daily. It is still being generated, but daily, and it was to be transported from that point to the trenching ground or the disposal site, which is around 15 kilometers in the length. So we have to transport, and we have to spend around 2.5, 3 crores per annum to transport that waste from the point where it is generated to point where it is disposed of. We came up with the idea of creating a biomethanation plant in situ in the mandi. We face lots of resistance from the mandi that we won't be giving you any land for this, and this would cause some issues. This would give some bad odor to the places nearby. Somehow we convinced them. We started with the project. Within 1 year, within 8 to 9 months, we were ready with the plant. So it's a 20 metric ton biomethanation plant, which is there inside the premises. Now, what it has led to, all the 20 tons of organic waste which is generated over there, it is disposed of in situ. So we have saved on the transportation cost. We have saved on the fuel cost, which we used to incur traveling from one place to another. We are generating clean energy, clean gas with that waste in the tune of around 800 kgs per metric ton. And the city bus which are being run are fueled from that gas now. So a circular kind of thing, you created a cleaner fuel, you saved on the cost, and you are using that to run the public transport of your city. So that kind of decisions, somehow it leads to some other added advantages as well. So this was the fourth year in consecutive fourth year where Indore was declared as the cleanest city of India. One last initiative which was taken last year in 2018 and 2019, you must have seen the disposal site at Devgodaria. 20 lakh metric tons of legacy waste was lying over there. And that had made the area virtually into an hell. So lots of fire incidents taking place, the groundwater getting contaminated. the area near the habitations, the habitants were really facing a lot of health related issues over there. So we decided to have a clear solution of how to deal with it. So there is a process called bioremediation where you get out the waste and you completely dispose it off. We had a pilot project. We cleared around 5% of the land. We conducted a pilot project. It became successful. Then we said, if it is successful, let's wipe it off. So we started the process in 2018, and by the end of 2018, within a span of 7 months, entire 20,000 metric tons of legacy waste was wiped out, and that place was converted into a green forest. You can now visit that place. So the entire legacy waste is now gone. The area is now converted into a green area, and even that has led to the prosperity of the entire surroundings over there. So some initiatives which were taken by the municipal corporation administration at different points of time, some difficult decisions which were taken, some decisions which had no precedence that were taken, and that has led to change the entire scenario of a city like Indore. So an example of good governance, how it can convert the geography, the economics of a city. But that would require a commitment from the administration, and that would require an equal participation of the citizens of the city to make that possible. So as I said before I wind up, Indore has been declared the cleanest city for last 4 years. In 2018, United Nations declared Indore as the model for solid waste management, and we were awarded at the regional headquarters for that. In last 3 years, around 1,000 to 1,200 cities have visited Indore to learn how to do a solid waste management for the entire city. And that might have given Indore an image that can carry on globally. So I thank you for giving me an opportunity to share my experiences for this, and thank you.
Thank you so much, Rohanji. Before I invite to the next speaker of the session, Mr. Manish Shankar Sharma ji, IPS officer, is joining us on a virtual basis. My humble request to the participant, to the speakers, that we have just crossed the time limits and to just maintain the time limits of 5 to 7 minutes only. My humble request to Shri Manish Sharma ji, kindly address to the gathering.
Good morning to everyone. Before I actually start the gathering, let me first Mr. Garg, Ashish, the efforts that he has put in bringing this 48th National Convention to Indore. And I remember an anecdote from about a year and a half ago, when I was addressing the company secretaries as the chief guest at the annual conference of the Western region. And I learned that Madhya Pradesh has never seen the National Convention. And I'm delighted that Mr. Garg and his team have been able to mention to our state and to the beautiful city of Indore. I would like to say a special hello to my batchmate, Mitaji, with whom I share fond memories of our starting in service, and greet all the dignitaries that are present here. The topic that the ICSI has chosen, not only for this session, but for the whole conference, governance from grassroots to go global, is an issue that is the need of the day. I have been fortunate to have served across 4 continents, from war-torn Syria to South Africa, from California to Cambodia. And one of the important things that I have seen that differentiates us from rest of the countries is the tremendous importance and emphasis that every society in most of these countries places on good governance. And the time has come that good governance takes center stage in our country also. And thus it is a pleasure that the entire conference is being organized on this issue. Two key areas that good governance concerns, and I'd like to bring them forward. One is the effective and efficient delivery of public goods and services to the satisfaction of the citizens. This is important. And the other key issue revolves around developing trust and confidence of the society that we serve. If we are unable or we do not reach up to the standards in either of these two issues, then good governance cannot be said to be taking place. I have identified and tried to practice throughout my 28 years of career 6 or 7 primary critical areas that I feel are necessary for good governance. And these areas are generally same across the world. Situations may differ, but if you have these 5-6 areas in mind in terms of good governance, it is eventually bound to come about sooner rather than later. And what are these 6 areas? Ethics and values, very important. The ethics and values that we have as civil servants need to be oriented to serving the society rather than looking elsewhere. Empathy, placing yourself in the position of the people you are serving and thinking for a moment. As the chief of police, I would always tell my SHOs and police station in charges that every person coming into the police station, if in every case they are able to put themselves in his place and think for a moment, their action will invariably be right. Accountability is another key area. Neutrality. Neutrality of the civil services is important if good governance has to take place. And this leads me to one of the very important factors: commitment, dedication, and hard work. Commitment to the law of the land, commitment to the rules. Dedication and hard work, of course, are necessary in every field. And so they are in the civil services as well. Also, feedback, developing communication channels so that whatever action, whatever scheme you are starting provides a way to the citizenry to give you feedback. You're able to learn what are the deficiencies. You're able to incorporate what is necessary, what changes and modifications may be required to make that scheme successful and beneficial to the people. And of course, enlisting the cooperation of the people, people's participation, community participation. Without that, it becomes extremely difficult to succeed in any scheme. Also, something that I have noticed all across the world, perhaps not happening in our universities, the best minds needs to go into governance. We have seen across the world, whether it is in the US, the UK, East Asia, all the developing countries, the top universities have courses on governance. Something similar needs to take place in our country, and that will also be very, very important. And finally, all stakeholders that are involved in this process, be it the media, be it the civil services, be it the larger civil society, the civil NGOs, people, the company secretaries themselves, everyone is a stakeholder in good governance. And that brings me to the point of the audience and the convention today, the company secretaries. You are the torchbearers. You are the conscience keepers of the corporate good governance. And as the Indian economy is growing, you are going to become even more important, and you are going to grow at a phenomenal rate. The entire industry, new laws are coming in requiring certain companies of a certain size to have company secretaries. All this growth is going to lead to a lot of responsibility on your shoulders. And carrying these, the conscience keepers, if you are able to do this, this will eventually lead to corporate good governance. And corporate good governance will also force good governance from the civil services. Taking a small example, we were asked to give one example, but across so much of service across such a vast geographical area, there are several that I could list in terms of good governance. As Chief of Security for Airports in India, I had updated airport security programs for entire airports in the country after a gap of almost 10 years. But I'm going to concentrate on one small example from Madhya Pradesh. And this relates to Raksha Samitis, a concept of defense societies involving people in the work of the police, at least that work of the police, which it is possible to involve the people, the public, the citizens. And the idea first came to me because they were lying moribund usually in about 20-25 years ago when I was SP. And the idea came to me because we had in those times police stations that were looking after 200 villages, but had one head constable and 4 constables apart from the SHO. So 5-6 people responsible for such a wide area. It was impossible to cover for them. And that is when I initiated the revitalizing of these Raksha Samitis in all the districts that I served as SP. And one important thing that I did was that I involved youngsters in this. Nehru Yuva Kendra, NSS, Scouts and Guides, you name it. Any kind of youngster organizations were involved. Eventually, what happened was that people used to come forward. When we would have sammelans, there would be almost 1,000 people. They came forward to help the police in places where the police wasn't short resources. They would do gush together. They would provide information. And eventually, over the years, in several, these people who have been serving as volunteers have gone on to win awards on 26th January and the 15th of August. They have now become crucial assets of the government. And what I have also seen very recently, and I was happy to see that in my previous assignment as Chief of the State Disaster Response Force, I saw across many districts in Madhya Pradesh that these same agencies, Raksha Samitis, have now been trained by the district administrations, collectors and SPs to become first responders in situations of disaster. So again, enlisting people's cooperation, and this overall has seen governance become better in those districts, whether it is in policing, whether it is in handling disasters. I would like to move towards the conclusion of what I wanted to say by emphasizing that this topic, good governance, isn't it extremely appropriate that the ICSI, an institution that has done a phenomenal contribution in the growth and development of the corporate sector in this country, the ICSI decided to hold this conference in Indore, in a city that is nationally recognized as a model of good governance for various factors. And allow me to conclude by going back to what I said earlier, one of the key principles in terms of critical areas for good governance commitment, dedication, and hard work. And to quote a chaupai from Ramcharitmanas that emphasizes on these. And the chaupai goes like this. Tapabal rachai prapanch vidhata. Tapabal rachai prapanch vidhata. Tapabal sakal Vishnu jagatrata. Tapabal sakal Vishnu jagatrata. Tapabal shesh darahi mahibara. Tapabal sheesh karahi sangara. Which means that hard work, dedication, and commitment are necessary for Lord Vishnu to create the world. They are necessary for Lord Shiva to have the destructive capacity. They are necessary for Lord Sheshnag to hold the earth on its head. And since they are necessary for God, if we are able to follow dedication, hard work, and commitment in each of our activities, good governance will eventually follow. Thank you. Jai Hind.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Manish sir, for your kind address, and really impressed with the chaupai used on the Tapabal by yourself, and it's really going to motivate because the Institute of Company Secretary is also learning lots of from the Indian sculptures, and a lot of learnings we do have. Friends, now it's the time to invite to the last speakers for this first session of the second day of the National Convention. We do have blessed with the presence of one more IPS retired officer, Shri Suresh Arora ji. He is also a fortunate member of the Institute of Company Secretaries of India. He is Chief Information Commissioner from the state of Punjab. So over to you, Suresh Arora ji, to kindly address to the gatherings. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sonal. Due to paucity of time, I would like to straightway come to the topic of the day. In fact, I must thank the young officers, for taking me back to my old days of ASPs and SPs. And I must appreciate that they're doing a very tough job. Reason being, it is very difficult to administer such a vast country with so much, diversification. But definitely, I would like to, give you a different perspective, of ensuring a good governance, having put in, 36 years service in public area. I was once posted as Chief Director of Business, and I found that my colleagues from different services, would call me up and request me for expediting the clearance of their business clearance certificate, which was a requirement for either going on deputation or for either, going on retirement, or whether, it was required for the promotion. So I started wondering why, I'm being approached for these issues. So I called my people. I said, "Okay, what do you do? What's happening? Let's understand." He says, "Sir, we get this, reference from the business department, which is in the state government. They get in turn, the reference from the concerned department to which that officer belongs." And I said, "Then what do you do?" He says, "Sir, we compare, we have got the registers in which they have a data, the officer facing inquiries or the officer facing business corruption cases under trial, under investigation. And then, we give the clearance certificate, whether it's an active report or positive report." I said, "How many cases do you get in a year?" He said, "Sir, we get around 1100 cases in a year." I said, "Then how many are active in that?" He says, "Sir, around 8 to 10%, that would mean around 80 to 90 cases." I said, "For giving, for finding out 80 to 90 cases, you are putting, the positive cases at ransom because they keep going around." I said, "Can't we put this data digitally on our website?" He said, "We can do it." I said, "Please do that." Thereafter, I approached the government and asked them to change the rules. Each department has a chief vigilance officer. I said, okay, we will give them a code. They can access this data while being in the office. So whenever, any promotion, retirement, any comes up, so they don't have to send reference. They just have to, open the website, put their, and see whether so-and-so person's name is in the list or not. And if it is not there, that means the clearance is there. And we will update the data every fortnight. Government changed the instructions and rules. And thereafter, what happened? This is the, my takeaway would be for today. I stopped getting phone calls, from my colleagues, from different services. Nobody would appear before me. I became irrelevant. I was not relevant in the system. I believe, now this is where, you give it a pause here. I'll come back to this part again. One of my friend from a foreign service, he was posted in Italy. One day he called me up. He said, Suresh, one of his friend who was in a bank in Ghana, one city, has been asked by the bank suddenly to go to Singapore for some training, and he needs a police report and a passport, within 24 hours. I said, you give me your number, don't worry, I'll sort it out. So I contacted his friend, sorted out the problem, the matter ended. One day, a lot of our colleagues, again I would say from different services, were sitting together, and out of anguish, I did loud thinking, saying that, look, since 60 years we have got independence, and still, people need recommendations for getting a police report, for something, for getting a passport, which is his, basic right. And he has to call up his friend in Italy and so on. You will be surprised, one of very senior officer from different services told me, he said, Suresh, don't think like this. You think like this, that you were able to oblige your friend. And your friend obliged his friend. He said, the people work that start getting done on its own. Who will come to you and me? Now, you see, that's the point I'm making for today, that all of us, wherever we are, if we can find out in a system that something which can be done on its own, and people don't have to approach to us, I think that will lead to a good governance. I can understand, politicians want to remain relevant in the system because they have to face the public after 5 years. Why do we, right from a clerk to the top, in the system wants to remain relevant? Why can't we have, like I've been also abroad, studied there, you don't have to have any recommendation when you go and meet anybody. They have a very clear system in place. They have, standing operating procedures, protocols. You just adhere to that. So this is a different perspective I wanted to give you. And, going by the paucity of time, as I said in the beginning, I would conclude with two things. Way back in 2004, Mr. Madhav Godbole, he was a former Home Secretary. He, along with his colleagues, they have filed a PIL, in the Supreme Court for making the right to govern, good governance as a fundamental right. Of course, that was not admitted by the Supreme Court for different reasons. But now having, right to privacy, right to information, I believe now the time has come if we can have even, right to good governance as a fundamental right. And secondly, winding it up with this, I've been in this position for the last 1.5 years. Right to information. This mandate is very clear, twofold basically. Transparency and accountability. This will lead to ensuring a good governance, in the government sector. So if we can, adopt it in its letter and spirit on the government side, it will really help in ensuring good governance and making a life of a common man much easier. Thank you so much, and thank you so much for giving me opportunity to be here with you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Arora ji, for your kind address. And as in the beginning, we were talking about searching for opportunities into the pandemic. I believe your session or your address was not so feasible or not so easy if this pandemic was not there, and you addressed us from your location. So friends, it's a wonderful workshop, wonderful session we did have on this.
So we have a launch. So I'm announcing that.
Yeah,
Before we wind up the session. Dear all, now I request our President Shri Ashish Garg ji to kindly come on the dais for release of a mobile app. I also request CS Pratik Tripathi to join sir on the dais. So I'll give you a brief about this mobile app. The Institute of Company Secretaries of India, in its attempt to facilitate its members, students, and all its stakeholders the world over, and utilizing technology to its benefit, is launching a new mobile app under the aegis of CS Connect. CS Connect intends to bring together all the events of the ICSI organized at chapter, regional offices, and HQ level under one umbrella. I'll give you some key features of this mobile app. Event calendar on your fingertips, easy to access payment gateway, registration at a single touch, detailed credit hours report. A huge round of applause, proud moment for ICSI. Thank you all. Now let's present the Shaheed Ki Beti certificates to our honorable guests. Can we have the Shaheed Ki Beti certificates? I request President Sir to present Shaheed Ki Beti certificate to Ms. Smita Bhardwaj, IAS Managing Director, MP Financial Corporation. A huge round of applause. We are thankful to you, ma'am, for coming here and gracing the occasion. I request CS Pratik Tripathi ji to present the Shaheed Ki Beti certificate to Ms. Aditi Garg, IAS CEO, Indore Smart City. I request CS Praveen Soni ji to present Shaheed Ki Beti certificate to Mr. Rohan Saxena, Executive Director, MPIDC. We also present Shaheed Ki Beti certificates to all our dignitaries who are present virtually. To Shri Suresh Arora ji, we are thankful to him for coming and addressing you all, CS Sonal Goel and Mr. Manish Shankar Sharma. We thank all the dignitaries. It's a proud moment for all of us. Thank you very much. Now I request Samir ji to propose vote of thanks, formal vote of thanks to all our dignitaries. Sir, I request you to propose formal vote of thanks to the dignitaries.
My sincere thanks to all the participants, all the speakers of the session. We did have the eminent speakers, young and energetic on the dais. Again, the combination of young and energetic and some experienced speakers of the dais, those who are speaking from the virtual mode. We had a wonderful experience of Indian sculpture. Other speakers, those who shared, and it's going to be beneficial to all of us. I remember as in professionals. I would like to conclude this one only simple quote that whenever we are doing the compliance, we need to understand whether we are honestly doing this or not, what our antaratma says. So I would say I cannot satisfy everyone, but mumkin nahi ki sabki najron mein main शामिल हो पाऊँ ज़्यादा it's better कि I should satisfy myself. So that is one of the important thing which I want to communicate, so that we do have more this kind of sessions, and we can hold the same in the same spirit. So that's the best spirit I can say. मुमकिन नहीं कि हर किसी नज़र में बेगुनाह रहना, वादा ये करे कि खुद की नज़र में बेगुनाह रहे, बेदाग रहे. So that is the spirit of compliance we need to have. Thank you so much to all the participants and all the speakers for being there. Thank you so much.